Okay, this is a lesson, like a 12 bars in E kind of deal, bluesy kind of thing, a little strut to it maybe. Remember 12 bar blues format, it's 4 bars of the 1 chord, so the 1 chord is whatever key you're in, we're in E. Then you'll have 2 bars of the 4 chord, which would be A7, 2 bars of the 1 chord again. Then the last 4 bars you can mess around with a little bit, but in this case it'll be the 5 chord for 1 bar, 4 chord for 1 bar, and then 2 of E again. So the chords you really need to know, this is basic stuff, is your E, basic first position E, your little finger on the D, 3rd fret 2nd string, that's your 7th, and your little finger is free to play melody notes, 1st string, G to E, D to B. So what I'm going to do, well, let's go, here's the A7th chord. Now I play it most of the time with my 3rd finger, but in this case I'm playing it with the 2nd finger because we are also going to have to do this long A, as we call it. So it's a little bit of a stretch, but you'll get used to it. So if we take that A7th shape right here and we move it up 2 frets, B flat, B7th, that is our 5 chord right there. We could also use the full first position, B7th chord, to substitute. You can substitute the 1, 4, and 5 for any of these chords. That's the cool thing with blues and stuff. So it's just like a little skeletal format to jam on. Now we're going to get a groove going. I'm going to do it with like a monotonic bass, which is just 4 beats on the E, as opposed to an alternating bass, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be alternating, monotonic. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if that E just rings through, it doesn't sound right. So you need to like lightly palm mute the lower bass strings. You want the melody strings to come out, but it's just ever so lightly. You're going to just like turn your hand a little bit. So this lesson will, get you comfortable kind of, mess around with the 12 bar format, but it's also going to help you with your palm muting and just the independence of church and state, which is from the bass note, which should be a constant, and whatever note you put on top of it, the melody. So if I do this, that's open. So it's not like you totally want to deaden it, you just want to keep it from like ringing free, okay? Like putting reins on a horse or whatever, leash on a dog, I don't care how you want to think about it. But it changes the color, one of the 5 parameters of music, by just lightly touching your palm there. So you could just practice doing this, and I'm using picks, so if you're not using picks, it's still the same motion. Your index curls up to the palm of your hand, your thumb comes down parallel across the strings, through the string to get a nice sound. If it could rest on the next string, that would be awesome. Okay, so if you're not using picks, you want to grab as much as a string as you can with your thumb. A lot of flesh will give you the sound. My fingers are just worn out, so I'm using picks right now. So the picking hand is what's going to make this come to life, but you still, got to get these chords down. So what makes this E chord cool is a hammer on. So your first finger hammers on from the open G string up to the G sharp. And that's the blue note kind of in the blues, is the 3rd, like that little bit of the 3rd being minor, major, ambiguity. So you have to time this, and I'm picking this with my index finger. So you need to get that in rhythm. So it's a lot of times with hammer-ons or pull-ups, you do it too fast, so we don't hear that first note. Because what you want to do is you want to time, so when you bring that first finger down, you're attacking the 6th string. So I would just start with this. And you can control the sound with your fretting hand too by just lightly releasing the strings. They don't leave the string, but it's just a way for you to control the rhythm a little bit more. So here we go. Once you're like comfortable with that, then you're going to bring in the open E string to the 3rd fret of the 2nd string right here. And those are off the beat, so when you get it going here, it's going to be. And you want that E to ring through as you're hitting that D, so it gives a little twang to it. And if you want to do a little whammy, a little tiny bend vibrato on that D string, it's going to just bring it out. That's articulation again. So you do this 4 times. That's 4. Then we go to the A7th. So instead of doing the hammer on, we're going to slide in. So we're barring off right here. 2nd, 3rd, 4th strings, we're sliding from the 1st fret to the 2nd fret, and again we have to time it so that when we come to the 2nd fret is when we hit the open A bass note. So you want to just practice that slide timing until you bring in the melody notes, which will be the A to the G. So that's like the root of the chord to the 7th chord in A. It's the same thing we did in E. The root melody note, E to D, and then we're doing it in A. Take the B, we slide it all the way up. Now we don't have an open string to hit, so we're hitting the 4th fret of the 4th string, and you can just stay on that and then do the same thing up here. B to A. So it's the same kind of melody note in 3 different chords. So it's a longer slide, so it's got to be a little quicker, and you just have to time it out. And then so let me just play through that whole thing with the monotonic bass, and then I'll do it with an alternating bass, which is basically 6 to 4, and then we get to the A, it'll be 5 to 4. Now we go up to the B, it'll be 4th string to 3rd string, or just the 4th string. You don't have to be so precise and particular. Rhythm is the key. So if your bass note is like a different, or you do kind of a little strum, a lot of times it'll be like lower bass strum kind of, where you're hitting more than one string. So let me just play through this for you. Here we go. 1, 2, da, 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 da. So I went into the alternating bass the last time through, so let me just play it, the 12 bars again with the alternating bass. So it's throw in that little turnaround sometimes. So what makes the blues kind of fun in a 12-bar format, or if it was a 16 or whatever, are those last 4 bars. You have a lot of freedom there. So the structure, it just gives you a chance to improvise. Because I said you could play little different notes here. When you're doing this, it's whatever sounds good to your ear. Just keep that bass kind of thumping away, whether it's monotonic or if it's alternating. And it's not like really clean. It's like if it's 1, 2, 3, 4. The 2 and the 4, it's kind of like you're hitting through the 4th string. So it's like almost like a little strum. And there you have it. And you can bring in on the turnaround. As long as it fits into the 2 measures that you're allotted for that, you're good to go.